Today, the House Tax Writing Committee is entering its second day of work to hammer out the details of the GOP tax cut plan. Here to talk about the latest negotiations is Illinois Congressman and the chairman of the House Ways and Means Tax Policy Subcommittee. It's Peter Roskam, who's with us from Capitol Hill. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us here. So give us the latest on the progress of this tax bill and sort of what's most significant to you that has happened over the course of the day.
So what's most significant, I think, is that you're having a robust, dynamic, good debate in public, a lot of feedback and a lot of input all the way around. Yesterday, the Ways and Means Committee took up this bill. It's known as a markup process, and the bottom line is it's slow and it's deliberative. So now many Democrats are offering amendments. They're being considered and evaluated, and this is the nature of this process. But what I think is important is the process is moving forward, and this is the first time that you've seen something this significant in a few decades of this magnitude as it relates to tax policy. So it's on track to try and get these tax plans and particularly tax relief in place by the end of the year.
Congressman Roskam, a couple weeks ago on the show, we were talking to the CEO of the National Association of Home Builders, who talked about fighting tooth and nail against this bill due to changes in mortgage interest stuff. And he talked about we have members in every district in the country who are going to be hammering Congressman on this. Have you heard from that industry in your district, and have you talked to them about their concerns?
They have concerns. I've heard from a wide range of people, both in favor of it and who are cautious about it. And I think here's the bottom line. We know that the status quo isn't working for us. The home builders in particular have a concern as it relates to the mortgage interest deduction. And what we're saying is we're doubling the standard deduction for most Americans. And our theory is, it's not really a theory. The thinking is give people their own money, and with that money, they're going to decide what they want to do with it. Here's what we know. If you track home prices over the past several decades, home prices track closely with an expanding economy. So as things grow, home prices go up and so forth. And so what we're designing this ultimate package is to drive real economic growth. And we think growth is the benefits everybody. And we think when push comes to shove, most of these folks are going to be satisfied with the net product that we come out with.
This bill will add $1.5 trillion or somewhere in that neighborhood to the national debt over a 10-year period, Congressman. Why is this something that fiscal hawks, especially in the Republican conference, why is this something they should be comfortable with?
Well, to your point, there's no level of comfort when it comes to taking on debt, but we do take on debt in our personal lives, and businesses take on debt, and we look at debt as a tool, and it's a tool to be used with an end game. And so in this, you're absolutely right. We've said, look, we're going to take on this debt, but here's what we get for this debt. We get an economy that's robust again, and we get a tax code that is transformational. And we're convinced, and I think you look at the Tax Foundation, you look at a lot of other folks that have evaluated this, and they said the type of economic growth that we can see coming out as a result of this can be really transformational. So I accept the premise that it is taking on debt, but it's debt with a purpose, and it's not into debt into perpetuity. Here's the other point. If all we do is say, well, look, let's just stick with the status quo and rub our hands and moan and groan, ultimately, that's not going to get us out of where we are. We need growth to really deal with this debt question. Debt is related not only to the amount of tax revenues that we're contemplating, but ultimately it's a spending question. This is a revenue discussion, and we think that by transforming our tax code, making the U.S. one of the most competitive tax jurisdictions in the world, getting the corporate rate down to 20, moving away from an international system to a territorial system so that that money is repatriated and so forth, dealing with business income on pass-throughs at a lower rate for the first time ever and getting that business income rate down to World War II levels, that's really worth chasing.
Congressman, at the same time that we're talking about this 20% corporate tax rate, at the same time, there's something that one tax analyst called an atomic bomb in the draft legislation, which is a new 20% tax on offshore affiliates of U.S.-based companies, something that could affect the biggest companies in America and something they are not too happy about.
Okay, I've heard a lot of hyperbole over the past couple of weeks. Atomic bomb, I mean, God bless them. So here's the point. We want to move to a territorial system. Most people agree with that. If you move to a territorial system and we don't do the border adjustment tax, which we're not proposing anymore, and you don't do that, then we've got to come up with some remedy that will keep companies from putting their intellectual property offshore to a low tax jurisdiction and not pay any taxes. You would actually exacerbate the base erosion problem. What we've proposed is a remedy, and my view is we'll continue to get feedback on it. If people don't like the proposal, then it's incumbent upon proponents of a territorial system to come and say, here's how we fix the base erosion problem. I think most folks are really interested, but the notion of saying let's move to a territorial system and not deal with base erosion, that's unsatisfactory. That's just not good enough.